this three-game series and the end of a very short homestand for Brandon Phillips and the Reds, trying to get out of here with a win before they go to Pittsburgh later this afternoon. And hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball. A big one here today, and a big one for Edinson Volquez. Chris, who was so good his first start back against Colorado and has really labored his last two outings.
Well, the last two really bad starts the Reds have had, both have fallen on Edinson Volquez. And, you know, you can expect some ups and downs coming back from Tommy John surgery. And, you know, if you set the bar of expectation too high, like he teased you with in his very first game, you're going to assume that Edinson Volquez is going to come right off the disabled list and be an all-star pitcher. But it's simply not that easy. His mechanics are still not really honed down just right. He's getting the ball up, as you're going to see right here. He gets his change ball up, and he really couldn't get his curveball over very well his last time out. For Volquez, is staying back over his back leg and pitching downhill, not getting his foot landed before he gets his arm up behind his ear. It sounds simple, but when you've got adrenaline going through your body, it's awful tough to stay back a little bit. Today, he's going to face a pretty good one in Tommy Hansen. 6 feet 6 inches of hard-throwing right-hander. This guy owes the Reds a payback. They roughed him up real good down in Atlanta. A matchup today of a couple of hard-throwing righties.
Hansen was a guy who started that game when the Reds just pounded him early and then had the heartbreaking loss, giving up 7 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. So we are set to go with Scotty rolling. Boy, is he rolling right now. He's back in the lineup, and we'll talk more about him in a moment.
And may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, our telecast of Reds baseball today and every day on Fox Sports Ohio is presented in beautiful high-definition television courtesy of H.H. Gregg. Bright and sunny right now at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. What about the rest of the day? Let's check in with Jeff Creighton.
Pretty good day for baseball down at Great American Ballpark. A little warmer today than what we saw yesterday. A little bit more sunshine as well. 86 that first pitch. And then hanging around that 88 number for the rest of the afternoon. A mix of sun and clouds. Pretty comfortable temperatures to play baseball.
What a roll it has been for Scotty Rowland, Chris. 9 hits in his last 11 at-bats, spanning the last 3 games.
Well, you know, we've talked so much about the chemistry and the emotional leadership and the veteran leadership that he brings to this ball club. But on the field is what he does. He might be the Reds' best base runner. He's certainly really good in the clutch. And you see him now as his career with the Reds has obtained last year from the Toronto Blue Jays, an average of close to 300, 21 home runs, 86 knocked in. And when he starts this ball game with the Reds are 73-45 with him in the lineup. When he's not, they're well under 500. That's what an impact player does, and he's hopefully going to stay healthy from here to the end of the year.
All right, when we come back, this series is on the line. The Braves and the Reds, 2 fun games to watch. We expect more of the same right around the corner. Farm is there by Ford F-Series trucks, the best-selling trucks 33 straight years. By Just for Men for mustache and beard, keep your edge. And by Skyline Chili, whenever you're feeling good and hungry, it's Skyline time. Another sellout crowd on hand at Great American Ballpark for the finale of this 3-game homestand and 3-game series. Atlanta won the opener. The Reds got a win last night, and now the Cincinnati Bell Atlanta starting lineup today under manager Bobby Cox. Brooks Conrad will lead off and play third base. Jason Hayward again in right. Omar Infante at second for the injured Martin Prado. Brian McCann catching. Eric Kinsky at first. Alex Gonzalez, a former Red, at short. Rick Ankiel came from Kansas City in a trade yesterday. And right in the lineup in center field, Melky Cabrera and left Tommy Hanson on the mound. Edinson Volquez makes his 4th start since coming off the disabled list for better than a year.
Well, better than a year, Tom. We're 2 days away from exactly a year anniversary is when Edinson Volquez had his right arm removed, or his right arm fixed. He had Tommy John surgery last year, came back a little ahead of schedule, I would think. Normally it takes a pitcher about a year, and this is already his 4th appearance. He's got plenty of arm and arm speed. His fastball anywhere from 95 to 98 miles an hour. He's still polishing his mechanics, and because of that, his control is not all that great. His slider is out. No longer throws his slider. He is back to throwing a curveball, so that'll be his 3rd pitch after his changeup and that blazing fastball.
Brooks Conrad to lead things off. Their pinch hitter supreme, but a rare start for him today in place of Tripper Jones, and that's ball one. And this game is underway. See the numbers on Volquez. He's allowed 11 earned runs in 12 innings, the 14 hits, the 10 walks. That's 24 base runners in 12 innings. Not a recipe for success.
Well, you know, Edinson Volquez has always been a high-effort pitcher. It's never been the kind of pitcher where he kind of lays back in his delivery and he's sneaky fast. If you watch him, he really jumps at the hitters. He uses his legs, but he's got a big delivery, and for that reason, he's never had great command.
In there, a strike. Alfonso Marquez working behind the plate. Tim Timmons at first. Bob Davidson at second. Angel Campos at third.
It's so hard to take a guy like Edinson Volquez, who's been a hard thrower his whole life, and say, okay, back off a little bit. Give me about 5 or 10% less, and you'll be a better pitcher. A lot of times it's just things that does not compute, because he's been used to throwing as hard as he can his entire life, and you're going to kind of stay with that mindset.
Ramon Hernandez hanging aside, and now the 2-2 pitch on the way to the first batter of the game, and it's fouled off and out of play. Volquez twice in 2008, once early last year, has faced the Atlanta Braves, and all 3 times has pitched pretty well. Hasn't gone very deep into the game. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run in a loss in May of 08, and then a couple of weeks later, 6 innings, 2 runs. The bullpen blew a save chance in that game. The Reds won the game in 11 innings, 3-2. And then last year, the 3rd week of the season, that was a game where he walked 7 batters, but had a no-hitter going in to the 5th inning, allowed a hit, 3 runs, and got a 4-3 loss. That was a very strange game that day for Volquez.
Effectively wild.
3-2 the count on Conrad, and there's a walk to begin the game. Take a look at the Reds on defense presented by Ford. A couple of big changes made by Dusty Baker. Lance Nix for Johnny Gomes in left. Chris Heisey for Drew Stubbs in right. Or in center, rather. Jay Bruce in right. Votto, Phillips, Cabrera rolled in first to third. A battery of Volquez and Ramon Hernandez. The first inning in each of his last 2 starts for Volquez has been a major struggle. His last game against Milwaukee on Tuesday night, threw 28 pitches in the first inning. When he allowed a run, a couple of hits, a walk, he hit a batter, was very fortunate to have allowed just the 1 run in that inning. But they got to him a little bit later. 3 2/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks. One ball and 1 strike to the rookie, Jason Hayward.
You know, you bring up the last start that Volquez had. That was against the Brewers. I really thought that Edinson Volquez threw way too many off-speed pitches. I mean, here's a guy that throws 94, 95 miles an hour, and it seems like he was falling in love with his curveball. A newfound pitch for him, yes, but still, you've got to go back to the bread and butter. You've got to go back to what has gotten you to the major leagues when all else begins to fail, and try to spot that pitch up a little bit.
There's back-to-back gas right there at 94, and Hayward fouls it away. Volquez ahead at 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And when you foul it away the way Jason Hayward has the last couple of pitches, he's just a little bit behind it right now. Not even enough on it to say a hair behind it. I think he's just trying to defend himself. Might be a time that you could go up the ladder, go up and in. A lot harder to get to that pitch than a low fastball.
And Hayward has proven in this series already that if you pitch him away with fastballs consistently, he can and will hurt you. Had the game-winning 2-run double on Friday night in the 10th inning against Francisco Cordero. All 3 doubles in that game by Hayward, all to left field. Breaking ball up and in, even a count. Breaking ball low and in. It goes to 3-2. The other thing we talked about, and everybody certainly is different, but watching the Reds day in and day out, the other four starters, the current starters in this rotation, work so much quicker than Volquez. I almost wonder, Chris, if he picked up the pace a little bit, would it do anything for him? There's a bouncer back to the mound. Volquez will play to first and get the out there with Conrad on the second base.
Well, that's conventional thinking, Tom, and probably the answer is yes to that. But I think the thing that separates Volquez yet from the rest of those guys is that he's a different type of pitcher. Even Johnny Cueto has changed the way he kind of approaches the game. He's backed off a little bit. And this is a changeup that Edinson Volquez throws right here on a 3-2 pitch. It shows me he's got some confidence in being able to locate that. Off the plate. Of course, those spots that we show you there on that box tracks are going to be all over the place because Volquez really isn't right now zoned in on being able to hit his spots. But I agree with you. Pick up the pace a little bit. You get better plays behind you. You may even get better umpiring.
Well, you can physically see it in the players, in the way they sort of stand around and fidget around in the Volquez starts as opposed to anybody else in the current rotation. For that matter, even Aaron Harang, who's not been part of the regular rotation for quite a while since getting hurt. Good breaking ball in there to Omar Infante. Man, this guy's a tough out.
You know, a lot of people were whining and complaining as to why Omar Infante was named to the All-Star team. But he's got some pretty good numbers, and it doesn't really matter when or where Bobby Cox uses him. He's come up with some big hits for this team.
Braves suffered a significant injury here on Friday night. There's a ground ball to hold it short. Cabrera lets it go, and it is not in time. Boy, it looked like the throw was in time. But the first base umpire, Tim Timmons, says safe.
It looked like that ball may have beat him over here. Let's take another look at our advantage of seeing it slow-mo. On the run, does he have it in his glove? That's a whale of a play by Orlando Cabrera. Either way you cut it.
Very close.
Volquez thought he was out. Infante, it looked like jumped and actually hit the middle of the bag instead of the very front of the bag. Joey Votto had as much stretch as he could on the end of a long throw by Cabrera.
Well, now after a leadoff walk, an infield hit, they're on the corners with one out, and here's Brian McCann. A .276 batter, 14 home runs, 53 batted in. McCann was on base all 4 times in yesterday's game. 3 singles and a walk. He only had 1 hit Friday night, but that was a 2-run home run off Johnny Cueto. Power fastball there at 95 for strike 1.
Coming right after him. You know, the one thing I noticed about Brian McCann, he's so quiet in the batter's box until the time he kind of clicks it in. And then he really shows you a good athletic position. Even though he starts straight up, he keeps his weight on the balls of his feet. So much so that his front foot, his heel's off the ground. That's staying an athlete in the batter's box, never getting on your heels.
Beat him again with a fastball at 95 miles per hour, and that's out of play.
Trying to remember who the all-star pitcher was in the American League that threw that fastball up there that McCann ripped into right field for the base hit that won the game for the National League. This guy can hit a fastball, no question about it, but I would say that today Edinson Volquez has an exceptional fastball. He's thrown it by Hayward. He's thrown it by McCann. Now that you get 0-2 count, though, you've got to be very careful about where you throw it. McCann will shorten his approach, make him a little quicker to the ball.
0-2 with runners on the corners and 1 out here in the opening inning. They're trying to get him to chase up, and he does. Chris, that's what you talked about, using the fastball more frequently.
Well, when you throw mid-90s, I mean, why not? That's a God-given talent that, 99% of the people in this ballpark cannot do. And the 1% that can do it are probably sitting in the dugouts right now or in the bullpens. And, you know, it's a waste to try to come out there and think that you have to trick them or you can rear back and just fog it on by them.
Now Eric Hensky has been swinging a very good bat of late for Atlanta. That's a fly ball to left field, hit pretty well, but backing up is Nix, and the inning is over. So Volquez takes care of McCann and Hensky, leaving 2 on. The Reds are coming up. Cincinnati Bell, Brandon Phillips, Orlando Cabrera, Joey Votto. Scott Rowland in the cleanup spot. Lance Nix bats 5th in left. Jay Brucey in right. Chris Heisey in the 7-hole in center. Ramon Hernandez catching Edinson Volquez. Talented second-year pitcher, hard-throwing right-hander Tommy Hanson, a record of 8-7 on the year, ERA just under 4.
Second year, and he's only 23 years old. He'll be 24 later this month. He's a hard thrower, very much like his counterpart, Edinson Volquez. He's got plenty of strikeouts to his name. In fact, he's got more strikeouts than innings pitched. That's a great indicator of the kind of stuff this young man has. And he owes the Reds a payback. The Reds beat him up real good back in May when they went into Atlanta to play. The Braves eventually won that ball game 10-9. No decision for Hanson. But he's a guy that if you get on base, put your running shoes on. He has given up 20 stolen bases this year in 21 attempts, having a real hard time shutting down the running game.
Hanson had a great April, a very mediocre May, a terrible June, and an outstanding July. That May start against the Reds, an inning and 2/3 he lasted, gave up 8 hits, 8 runs, 2 walks. Edinson Volquez watches and hopes that his team can get on the board early and often again today. 1-1 to Brandon Phillips, a .286 batter, 14 home runs and 39 batted in. Brandon 1 hit so far in the first 2 games of this series.
You don't really want to chase that fastball up there. Even though Hanson is 6'6", he doesn't pitch very much with the downward plane. He's pretty much of a high fastball pitcher. He gets a lot of fly balls and a lot of strikeouts, not a lot of ground balls.
Two and two on Brandon Phillips, and there's a bouncer right at Conrad. One away. Atlanta on defense, presented by Ford. Melky Cabrera moves from center over to left field. Rick Ankiel just joined the team last night. He's in center. Jason Hayward in right. Conrad and Hensky on the corners. Gonzalez and Infante up the middle. Hanson and McCann the battery. Talked about Martin Prado, their National League All-Star second baseman. Sliding into home in the 10th inning the other night, broke the pinky on his right hand. And they're saying he'll miss anywhere from 7 to 10 days. Bobby Cox made the comment it wouldn't surprise him, knowing Prado, if Martin walked in his office about 2 or 3 days from now and said, I'm ready to go.
A lot of times, Tom, you get a player like Prado who doesn't want to be out of the lineup. As long as he can be convinced that you won't do that injury any further damage, and you'll go back in the game. He's got a cover on his right arm, as you see, as he comes across the bag, but he rolls right over on his, or excuse me, on his left arm, but he rolls over on his right hand, and that's when he broke his finger.
He had 2 almost identical slides in that game.
Yeah.
And the first time he went sliding in, he popped a couple of the buttons off of his jersey.
You know, I know that may have been the only way he could get to home, but if you're a youngster at home, obviously, going head first into the plate is never a good idea. And I'm saying never. Because if you're going to have contact with the catcher, he's got shin guards that are hard as rock, and you've got a chance to have your shoulder, your head, your hands, elbows, everything else flying right in there. So if you have a chance to do it, you go in there feet first. But Prado, you can see, kind of sideswiped the plate right there. And that's a brace that he has on this hand right there. That's a sliding brace. Very similar to what you'll see out at the skateboard park.
That's the first slide of the night by Prado.
First slide, he keeps his right hand out in front of him, as you see.
Line into center field. That'll be a 1-out single by Orlando Cabrera.
Oh, you stick your bat out there, maybe you make contact, maybe you just flare it out there. That's a great slider. I mean, great slider by Tommy Hanson. Down and away, on the knees, on the black. Hey, flip it out and see what happens.
Now Joey Votto at 325, 27 home runs, and 72 runs batted in for Votto. Votto leading the National League in hitting and home runs. He's tied for third in runs batted in. Ryan Howard still the league leader. The Philadelphia first baseman has 81 RBIs. Votto, as you are probably aware, also leads the league in slugging percentage and on base percentage. And now we begin the month of August. And the Reds will be leaning on each and every body that's in that lineup to try and get them where they want to go, Chris, where they haven't been since '95.
Well, you're going to have to take a superlative effort still from Joey Votto, like he's given you the first few months of the season, taking it right on to the very end. Set it from the very get-go. Somebody on his ball club has to have an MVP-type year. And obviously, it's the Reds' first baseman. It doesn't mean everybody else can fall asleep. But Votto continues to, or you need him to continue to mash.
One ball and one strike on Joey Votto. Cabrera held on over at first by Hensky. Swing and a miss. Great movement on that slider by Hanson to get ahead.
Hanson will throw a slider, a curveball, and a changeup. His breaking ball of choice is that slider right there. It'll come in about 84 miles an hour. Anywhere from 8 to 10 to 11 miles an hour slower than his fastball.
That is a fair ball. The can to throw out Votto. Cabrera advances into scoring position. There are 2 outs in the inning. Right now, the hottest hitter in the Reds lineup is a guy coming up. His last 3 starts, last Tuesday in Milwaukee. in Friday and Saturday of this series. 9 hits and 11 at-bats for Rolen. A home run, 5 runs batted in, 3 doubles, 2 walks, 3 runs scored. Of course, Rolen hit a home run to get the Reds on the board in the 4th inning yesterday, and then began the 4-run 7th inning with a 1-out double to left center, and later scored in the 5-2 win. A jam with a first pitch fastball here, and this will do it in the opening frame. End of 1, no score. Serious injuries, call 1-800-OHIO. Some of the guys we're certainly keeping an eye on, Chris, as far as bullpen help in the minor leagues should the Reds feel like they need it. And, man, are the numbers impressive.
Well, right now their bullpen is pretty good, but so you wonder, could it get better? Well, Aroldis Chapman, now that he's been in the bullpen 14 games, earned run average of 3.2, 25 strikeouts in 16 innings, dominating. Jason Isringhausen still trying to get his arm strength back up there. Russ Springer, veteran who's been a good pitcher for a long time, has been unblemished down in AAA. And Jared Burton, a familiar name and a great guy with a 2.9 earned run average. He's throwing the ball well. So the Reds have plenty of arms on which to call. And maybe that's one reason why Walt Jocketty, did not pull the trigger on a trade to bring another reliever in here, because he already has a whole covey of them down in Louisville.
We begin the 2nd inning. Former teammates Edinson Volquez against Alec Gonzalez, and it's quickly 0-2. Atlanta had an infield hit, drew a walk in the first, but stranded a pair of runners. You just can't say enough about how good. Actually, the word would be great. It's a word frequently overused. There's a fly ball into left field, hit pretty well, and on an 0-2 pitch, Gonzalez makes it 1-0. Another off-speed pitch by Volquez. And Gonzalez hits his first home run wearing an Atlanta Braves uniform since coming over from Toronto.
Well, it's a changeup, it looks like. And he just gets it up in the zone. I'm not sure what he's trying to do right there. I mean, here's a guy that's throwing mid-90s, and you're getting beat on your second or third best pitch. Not that you, as a starter, that you can go out there and just throw nothing but fastballs. But we've seen Alex Gonzalez play it before. And he can hit that pitch right there. Middle in, up, that's his zone. I mean, you've got to tell yourself as a starting pitcher, I'm going to miss somewhere where he's not going to hit me. If I'm coming up and in and I miss, I want to hit him in the ribs. I don't want to miss out over the middle of the plate. Well, maybe that'll be a wake-up call to Edinson.
One to Rick Ankiel. His first at bat with his new team. Came over in the deal from Kansas City yesterday, along with reliever Kyle Farnsworth, for Gregor Blanco, Jesse Chavez, and a minor league pitcher whom the Braves just acquired in the Alex Gonzalez trade with Toronto. Swing and a miss through a fastball right by him. Farnsworth will certainly help what has been an outstanding bullpen. Maybe take some of the load off Saito and a couple of others down there, Moylan. And Keel really not doing much at all with Kansas City this year, although we've seen him very good at times with St. Louis.
You know, he's a better player probably, Tom, on a good club like the Braves than he is on a poorer club like the Kansas City Royals. They may have leaned on him to expect too much offense in Kansas City. Not the kind of player you rebuild around, but he's certainly a good complementary player in this Braves team. Of course, the Braves never thought they'd be in a situation where they would look for somebody who can play center field. They've got Melky Cabrera, who played center the other night. He's in left field today. And Nate McLouth, the guy that they traded for from the Pittsburgh Pirates a year or so ago, who at that time was going to be their golden boy for a long time. Well, guess where he is? Down in the minor leagues. He has struggled so mightily they had to take him off the roster.
There's ball 4. Well, right now you can chat with Hall of Fame baseball writer Hal McCoy by logging on to FoxSportsOhio.com. Presented by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO and SafeAuto.com. That's 2 walks in the game already by Volquez through the first 7 batters. And now Melky Cabrera, the number 8 hole hitter. Batting average at .265, 3 home runs and 26 batted in. We talked about it Friday night. It really is amazing when you look up and down this Atlanta batting order. Now, I know today they don't have Prado, they don't have Chipper, some of their regular guys. But even the lineup, which was their regular lineup here on Friday night. It's amazing it's a team that going into play today is 15 games over 500 if you just look at the individual offensive numbers. There's a check swing and a miss. Prado obviously having a very good year in that leadoff spot. Hayward's having a good year. He's having a good rookie year. I mean, 11 home runs, 48 batted in before the series began. Drew Stubbs, for example, has 2 more home runs and 1 more RBI than Hayward before this series began. So, yeah, it's been a very impressive rookie season, but some of the other guys no more than 51 runs batted in. 1 guy over 50 RBIs. Not a single guy on the team with 15 home runs.
Well, one thing they do is they take a lot of walks. They've already taken 2 today. They've got a good team on base percentage, and they work you. They work you a lot like American League club might. And that's not good news for a guy like Edinson Volquez, who is prone to some wildness from time to time.
Phillips losing his footing and still gets a run at first. He did not see Ankiel fall down, but he didn't have time to take a look. He had to get at least 1 out. That's a nice play made by Brandon.
Well, the ball had a lot of topspin coming off the bat of a left-hander, rolling over on it. And when you do that, you hit that second hop, and it really takes off. Now, Brandon loses his footing, Ankiel loses his footing. Must be some tripwire out there.
the pitcher Hansen with a runner at second base and 1 out. 1 run home on the Alex Gonzalez home run. Hansen did not show any sign of a sacrifice there. He has 5 hits and 36 at bats overall in the year with 3 runs batted in. It's on the ground, is short, and that's out number 2. On to third goes Ankiel, and now Conrad, who led off the game with a walk, will bat with a runner at third and 2 men out. It's really been a fun series to watch. These 2 games have just been highly competitive, to say the least. Atlanta winning the opening game in 10 innings, scoring twice to beat Francisco Cordero on Friday night. The Reds coming back after falling behind 2-0, made it a 2-1 game before they came up with 4 runs in the 7th inning against Jair Jurgens. Bronson Arroyo, after a shaky start, finished beautifully, and the Reds got outstanding work yesterday from Rhodes, Massett, and Cordero. Arroyo picking up his 11th win of the season here yesterday. And now Volquez has fallen behind 2-0 to Conrad. Cardinals, after winning in 11 innings on Friday night, 1-0, pounded the Pirates to make it back-to-back wins in that series last night. And they'll get started in about a half hour from now to wrap up that set before the Reds see the Pirates in Pittsburgh starting tomorrow night. Fastball on the outside corner of strike. The Reds will have Thursday off and then go rolling into Wrigley Field in Chicago beginning Friday night. Friday afternoon, those will all be day games over the weekend. Two-one to Conrad. Breaking ball in. Conrad rarely ever gets a start. He has hit a pair of pinch hit grand slams so far this year. One of them, of course, beat the Reds on that ball just beyond the reach of Lance Nix back in early May. That's a foul ball. Then he hit another on this road trip. It came in the 8th inning to snap a 5-5 tie and proved to be the game-winning hit for the Braves. They've not played particularly well on his road trip. The Braves had gone 21 series against National League teams before this trip began, where they did not lose a series to a National League club. Now they lost a series to start this trip in Florida. They lost 2 out of 3 in Washington. And the Reds hoping to hand them a second straight loss in this 3-game series. Volquez has now walked 3 batters in the game.
Well, we said earlier that he's really all over the place, and his box tracks will show you that right there as we chart each one of them, the 6 pitches that eventually resulted in a base on balls. Here's where the danger is. You walk 3 guys in 3 innings or 2 innings, and you're so concentrating on throwing a strike right here. Well, Jason Hayward's looking for a fastball out over the dish. He may not be as easy to throw it by in this at bat as he was in the first one.
Hayward bounced out to Volquez his first time up. Ball 1. And the way the Reds have gone through their bullpen the last couple of nights, you know, the last thing in the world that Dusty Baker was hoping would happen was another high pitch count for Edinson Volquez early in a game. Hayward surprisingly takes back-to-back fastballs after getting ahead in the count 1-0, and now he's behind 1-2. Volquez is averaging 22 pitches per inning over his last couple of starts, and in fact averaging that same number in each of the first 3 outings since coming off the disabled list. And right now about to throw his 45th pitch of this game. 1-2. Well, they were talking about the potential of this young man Hayward ever since they made him their first-round pick, 14th overall in June of 2007. Struck him out swinging on a high fastball, and that'll end the inning. A solo home run by Alex Gonzalez gives Atlanta a 1-0 lead. Today, Colette Boito of Loveland will win the beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. We invite you to register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by visiting your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. Reds trail Tommy Hanson and the Braves after an inning and a half, 1-0. Lance Nix, Jay Bruce, Chris Heisey coming up. Nix getting his first start of the series, has swung the bat so well when given the chance, and they have been rare indeed here of late. Has 9 hits in his last 11 at bats. And hitting the ball hard, driving the ball. Nix behind, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Hanson stands tall on the mound, the wind and the pitch. On the outside corner, strike 3.
Back-to-back changeups and good ones. Well, he holds that grip kind of like a fastball right there. Maybe that's a slider. That looks like a backup slider. First one before that was a changeup that kind of moved the other way, but that's a backup slider right there that if you could only know exactly when you'd throw one of those, you'd be a lot better pitcher. And really what I mean by that is a slider from a right-handed pitcher like Hansen will normally go in towards a left-handed hitter. But sometimes you get over it in such a way that it actually goes the other way on you, and those are called backup sliders.
There's a pop-up and foul ground, and Bruce retired. Well, Jay hoping the calendar turning from July to August is going to bear certainly more fruit, because unquestionably the month of July was the worst in the very young career of Jay Bruce. He did not hit a single home run the entire month, and he batted less than 200.
Well, Tom, really what you have is, he's not alone right there. I mean, maybe in those numbers, yes, but I mean, in struggling for the month of July is also Drew Stubbs. So Dusty Baker has on his hands kind of a dilemma of you got two young players in Stubbs and Bruce who are struggling, but you're in a pennant race as a team. He's got to figure out a way to find a blend where you get those guys some mental days off, where they can work on their tray a little bit, get their confidence up, working with Brooke Jacoby, but at the same time, plug somebody in there that's going to help propel your team to some wins. And it opens the door for Chris Heisey. Heisey can play center field, he can play right field, he can play left field. He's a guy that has been somewhat underutilized, but you may see more and more activity out of Heisey because Dusty Baker's got no other way to go.
Stubbs hit a little bit above 200 for the month. Heck, Brandon Phillips even struggled in the month of July. He only hit 207. And Johnny Gomes' numbers have come way off where they were, and we figured that would happen. And Phillips can't stay hot all year long.
Well, I mean, if you look at the career numbers of a player and then look at what you've done in the first half, and if there's a big difference, if you're hitting 40 points higher in the first half of the season than you are over your career, chances are you're going to come back to the norm a little bit. And that's what's happening to a lot of the guys on this ball club, except for Votto and Roland.
2-2 to Heisey, and it's outside, ball 3.
Doesn't mean, though, that, those guys are going to stay cold the rest of the season. What you get with young players, and Dusty Baker has said it, we've observed this over the years, is that you're going to get them hot, you're going to get them cold. And right now, they're a little chilly.
3-2 to Heisey. And a breaking ball, a strike 3 called, and that'll end the inning. 1-2-3 for Hansen. He strikes out a pair. We go to the third, 1-0. complain about what I have, whether it's true or false. I think I can go with what I have. That's part of the challenge of a manager. Dusty would certainly be the first to admit he has been pretty blessed with 3 very good managerial opportunities. I mean, in San Francisco, they had a very good club when he took over, and they had a lot of wins when he was there. He came to Chicago, had a really good team his first year, and of course they went to the National League Championship Series. And so many of those pieces of that team either got old or got unproductive in a hurry. Comes to the Reds, a team clearly on the rise, and they've gotten better in each of his first 3 years as manager. And now very much in contention, only a half game out of first in the National League Central here on the 1st of August. Omar Infante to lead off against Edinson Volquez, who's allowed 1 run, a couple of hits. He's walked 3 and struck out 2. 3, 4, and 5 in this batting order today for Bobby Cox. Infante, McCann, and Hinske coming up. Three balls and 2 strikes, and Volquez to the plate, and there's a liner into center field, a base hit. Infante 2 for 2. Well, on Wednesday, August 11th, we'll take a break from the office and come on down for our next Paycor Business Day game. You can get a $20 price for a seat in our all-you-can-eat section thanks to the Business Courier. These seats include unlimited ballpark fare for one low price. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com. And, of course, that Wednesday game will be the final game of the 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. The Reds go on the road for a week tomorrow. Over 7 days, they'll play 6 games. And then a week from tomorrow night, the Cardinals come to town for the final time this year. And the Reds have one more trip there over Labor Day weekend. And 1 on Brian McCann, who struck out his first time up, and it was primarily on good location with a fastball and then climbed the ladders to get him out.
You know, Tom, like you, I was able to get down there and visit with Bobby Cox a little bit before the ball game. Was telling him about the Reds schedule. He said, hey, we've had one of those 6-city road trips too. And what he meant was 3 cities on the road and then come home to Atlanta for 3 days and then back on the road. That's really what the Reds have done here. You can look at this last couple of weeks for the Reds, I mean, looking forward and then backwards, as a 6-city road trip. Chicago, New York, Philadelphia. And then, of course, the last road trip from Houston to Milwaukee, then Cincinnati. And back on the road again. This is just a little bit of a stop off to get your laundry done and head on back out.
And there's barely enough time to even do that. 2-1 on Brian McCann. In the air and playable for Brandon Phillips. 1 out.
Now, 2 times he's tried to go up on Brian McCann, and both times with good effectiveness. and a nice result. The first one was a strikeout on a 1-2 pitch. The second time, it was just a little pop-up, harmless, over to Brandon Phillips. I'm not so sure Edinson has got it yet. I mean, as far as the light coming on, saying, you know, I can be a pitcher by spotting my fastball, be much more efficient, be a lot easier on my arm if I just back off a little bit and be able to throw the ball where I want to. I think Johnny Cueto made that advancement this year.
And there's very little doubt, and Cueto even admitted as much, that sitting back once every 5 days and watching Mike Leake do what he did to begin this season certainly made a distinct impression upon Cueto.
I think it's made an impression on Cueto. I think it even made an impression on Bronson Arroyo, believe it or not.
Aaron Kinski, the batter, takes a breaking ball, strike one. The whole Mike Leake situation is going to be an interesting one to watch. Dusty Baker has talked about it. He's not exactly revealed the plan. He said the Reds have one as to what they'll do with Leake through the remainder of this year. There's a fly ball to shallow center field. Cabrera backing up on it, and he'll get there for out number 2. They have obviously skipped Leake's spot in the rotation this go round after the off day on Thursday of last week. I would imagine they probably skip him again. He's supposed to start Tuesday night in Pittsburgh. And then with an off day on Thursday, they probably skip him that next time through. Or do they bring him back for the St. Louis Cardinals series?
Well, the Reds are not alone in making decisions about young pitchers like Mike Leake.
Runner goes, throw down to second base from his knees, and there is no chance for Hernandez.
The St. Louis Cardinals also have a very tough decision to make about Jaime Garcia, their young left-handed pitcher who is coming off of arm surgery. He has never thrown any more than about 130 or 40 innings in the minor leagues. So they've got to decide if they're going to take him out of the rotation, maybe skip him a couple of starts, put him in the minor league. So, you know, the front offices of both of these competing teams in the National League Central Division are really jawing about the same thing right now.
Edinson Volquez hits Alex Gonzalez on the hand, it looked like. Of course, the Braves have had starting pitchers in each of the first 2 games of this series hit by pitches. Medlin had a very badly bruised right forearm after getting drilled by Johnny Cueto in a series opener. It looks like Gonzalez is okay. And then Jurgens very upset when he was hit by Bronson Arroyo in his 7th inning yesterday. They're looking at the forearm, not the hand.
That ball got him right on the forearm. You saw maybe Jeff Porter tapping that. He's the trainer for the Braves. He's kind of tapping it with his finger, seeing if there's any really serious pain running up and down the arm and fingers of Alex Gonzalez.
And Volquez yelling over to him to say, I'm sorry, didn't mean for that to happen. And Gonzalez acknowledges that.
I think he probably said, are you okay? If I'm Edinson Volquez, I'm not letting him know whether I meant to do that or not. I am concerned about your welfare, but I'm certainly not going to disclose my intention.
Well, now Ankiel, who walked his first time up. You know, Chris, just to sort of finish that whole conversation about Garcia with the Cardinals, Leake with the Reds. One certainly could make the proposal, and you and I have talked about this frequently, that the Reds are still going to need some very big starts out of Aaron Harang before all is said and done in his 2010 year.
Well, the good news anyway for Reds fans and for Aaron Harang is that he's been throwing. He's got no pain. He's going to throw on Tuesday when the Reds go to Pittsburgh. Throw on the side, that is, to test that back again. But he's going to have to build up his arm strength. It's been a long time. In fact, they solved the back problem with Harang really through a chiropractic manipulation. But it took about 5 days for the muscles to stop contracting. They were in such a spasm that he couldn't move. So you're right. They will need some starts out of Aaron Harang. Not sure when they're going to get him, but boy, he would be a welcome sight if he comes back healthy, throwing the ball like he did a couple of years ago.
Well, it's either going to be Harang or Homer Bailey, but one of the two are going to make some big starts before this year's all said and done.
Well, Homer Bailey was so good the last 6-7 weeks of last year's season. He could put that in a bottle and bring it back this end of the year. That would be awfully nice.
The Braves strand 2 more. They've left 6 on base through the front 3, but lead 1-0. Garden Gnome thanks to Chiquita. Get tickets now for the Marlins weekend series by calling 381-REDS, 381-REDS, or log on to Reds.com. That's at homestand where the Reds will play the Cardinals on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. Night game, day game, and off day on the 12th. And then a Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon against the Florida Marlins. And then, Chris, it's the first of 2 extended road trips from now through the end of the year, and this one will be Arizona, LA, San Francisco.
More than ever before, those road trips have come late in the year, and they are more important than they've been in a long, long time.
Ramon Hernandez, Edinson Volquez, and then Brandon Phillips coming up. Reds with just 1 hit off Tommy Hanson. That was a 1-out single by Orlando Cabrera in the first inning. In fact, Orlando is the Reds' only base runner so far. That ball hit hard, a sinking liner, but run down by Hayward for the first out in the 3rd. Reds catchers have been so good this year. You look at a combination of Hernandez and Ryan Hanigan. And man, the numbers just simply do not lie. You've got Brian McCann, who has 53 runs batted in, has been an all-star every year he has been in the major leagues. The 53 RBI so far this year for McCann, of course, who was the All-Star Game MVP this year. The duo of Hernandez and Hanigan now have 53 RBIs as well, after the 2-run double by Hanigan in the 4-run 8th inning, or rather 7th inning yesterday. That is just phenomenal production. And, of course, each guy, Hannigan and Hernandez, has been on the disabled list. So it'd be only fair to throw in Corky Miller, who's no longer with the club. And he knocked in over a half a dozen runs. So the Reds are right at 60 RBIs from that position in their lineup. 3-2 on Edinson Volquez. Edinson 0 for 3 as a batter since coming off the disabled list. And draws a 1-out walk. How about that play yesterday when Hannigan knocked in 2? What a huge hit it was. Tie game. There were 2 outs in the inning, and Cabrera had it slip out of his hand. Ball went from left center to right center, and Hannigan rounded the bases.
Looks like Melky Cabrera's been working with Mayor Mallory on that.
That ball ripped into left center field, but they had it played that way, and Cabrera able to run it down. Brandon looking to the skies.
A couple of hard hit balls in the inning, and nothing to show for it.
So now Orlando Cabrera is singled into center field his first time up. Oh, and 1 on Cabrera. Cabrera hit that slider. We showed you the replay when he singled to center field in the first inning. It was a good pitch. It was down and away from him, but he was able to just flip it into center field and wound up being stranded at first base. The Reds could do nothing against Hansen the rest of that opening inning. And he has another hit. Volquez on to second. And here comes Joey Votto with 2 on and 2 out.
That seems like the whole plan at the top of the order. Get on base, keep the inning alive, just so that you can get Joey Votto to the plate. And already twice in this ballgame, Orlando Cabrera's been able to do that. A little flare single the first time up, a seeing eye single right here. Doesn't matter. They only ask you how many. Votto did not look good his first time against the off-speed stuff of Tommy Hansen. Let's see if he's made the adjustment.
Way out in front of a very slow breaking ball. Strike 1.
Now that's one thing you run into when you have a pitcher that throws both a slider and a curveball. You could be looking for off-speed, and he can pull the string even a little bit more on you and get you out in front.
Volquez at second, Cabrera on at first, and another breaking ball, and again Votto way out in front of it, fouls it away. Here's that grand slam that Votto hit. As part of the 8 hits and 8 runs the Reds scored against Hansen back in May.
But if you took a real good look at that pitch, that was a fastball down and out over the plate. He has not seen that pitch one time this afternoon. He's got enough stuff to run it up the ladder, see if they want to do that.
Joey chokes up off the bottom of that back. And they do climb the ladder with another breaking ball. And, boy, that was a very easy out for Tommy Hanson. Reds strand 2. We go to the 4th. 1-0 Atlanta.
In Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers, where you can register to win the Tundra at Great American Ballpark. By JTM, food, family, fun, JTM. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And by GMC, we are professional grade.
Well, that's very nicely done. Take a little cruiser out there, Chris.
I don't think it's so little when you get up next to it.
I think you are 100% correct. After I took another look, I'm like, you know what? That ain't little. Man, that's nice.
It is. It's got a disco ball on it. It might be your boat.
Could be. It could be. Eight, 9, and 1 in the batting order for the Braves against Edinson Volquez, Melky Cabrera, Tommy Hanson, and then Brooks Conrad. Oh, and 2. Volquez has walked 3, he's hit a batter. He struck out 3, allowed a run on 3 base hits. The home run by Alex Gonzalez that led off the second inning came on an 0-2 pitch. Struck him out on a breaking ball. 4 of them in the game now for Edinson. Let's take a look at our AT&T trivia question for this afternoon's game. Who is the oldest Brave in franchise history to hit 3 home runs in a game? Well, anything to do with the Braves franchise history and home runs. There's only one name I'm firing out there, right? Henry Aaron?
Henry Aaron would be obviously the first name that comes to your mind. But you have to remember that that Braves franchise goes back to before they were in Atlanta.
Right.
And even before they were in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's right, they're in Boston.
So you got a lot of players to consider for this one.
You're right. I forgot about the Boston part. I'm not going to claim to know a ton about the history of the Boston Braves. Didn't Babe Ruth play for the Boston Braves?
Can you say no, Nanette?
He didn't? Are you sure?
Well, no, that's not an answer as in no, he didn't. That is the play that was being produced by the owner of the Boston Braves, and he needed money.
All right. So you said no, I just locked up there. Okay. That was the trade that sent him then to Boston. Or to New York.
To New York.
Wow, well, maybe we're on to something here. Are you going to guess either one of those guys?
I'm going to have to guess one or the other.
All right, I'm guessing Aaron.
I'll go with George Herman.
All right.
That would be the Babe.
That would be the Babe. Sellout crowd on this beautiful Sunday afternoon in Cincinnati. A little warmer today than it's been the last couple of days.
Of course, they had some pretty good home run hitters there with the Braves throughout history. Dale Murphy. He could be one of those guys in contention.
Played for quite a while.
He did. Ken Griffey Sr. was with that ball club somewhere in the mid-'80s. He was getting up there in age at that point.
Of course, one of the oldest players in baseball to have a high level of success, although he wasn't an everyday player, and I'm quite sure he didn't hit 3 home runs in a game at the end of his career, was the great Julio Franco. Outstanding pinch hitter at the end of his career with the Atlanta Braves.
Who really knows how old he really was?
Yep. He was still good.
You're not kidding.
That guy could hit. They had guys like, well, Davey Johnson one year joined Hank Aaron and Darrell Evans, if I recall, each hitting over 40 home runs in a season. 3 guys during the same year. Over the head of Volquez, and Phillips, a barehanded pickup and throws in time to get Conrad. Countless times over the course of the year, which figures to earn him a 2nd Gold Glove when his 2010 season is over. Another $25 from Shakely goes to the Reds Community Fund. Shakely, it's done. 4, 5, and 6 in the batting order for the Reds against Tommy Hanson. Reds trail 1-0 on an Alex Gonzalez home run in the second inning. Cincinnati threatened in the third. A 1-out walk to Volquez, a 2-out single by Cabrera, but Hanson struck out Votto to end the inning. Rolen popped up to second, his only at bat today. And a bouncer down to Conrad at third for the first out. Cardinals and Pirates just underway, that game at Busch Stadium. And we'll keep you up to speed as to what's going on there as the afternoon progresses. The Cardinals will stay at home and open a series tomorrow night against Houston. And the Reds will be in Pittsburgh. Mix Tardy on a fastball, lofts it out of play to the third base side. We talked about it the other night. Now, really, for about the next 30 days, the Cardinals have the schedule very much in their favor as opposed to what the Reds have on the docket, especially considering the trip out west against a couple of pretty good teams in the Dodgers and a real good team right now, the Giants. But then about over the final 30-35 games of the year, it swings back the other way in the Reds' favor. But, Chris, as you've said many, many times, you got to play the game on the field.
I still agree with that, Tom. Until further notice.
That was just I haven't been able to walk a straight line since you dropped that on me the first time.
Thought about that a long time before I came out with it. Not sure who I stole it from, but I know a good line when I steal one.
1-2 on Nix, and it's down and in. You know, all joking aside, though, it is so true. It sounds so trivial. It sounds so cliche. And you hear every coach, every player, broadcasters, writers write it. In every sport, it doesn't matter which one they're playing or which one they're covering. But it is the truth. Nix has gone on strikes. Time to answer our AT&T trivia question. You answered the Babe. I went with Henry Aaron, the oldest Brave in franchise history to hit 3 home runs in a game. You're the winner.
How about that? A lucky strike. You know, I was wrong about the Boston Braves. Actually, he played for the Boston Braves after he played for the Boston Red Sox. He came up with the Red Sox, obviously, and then got traded to the Yankees. And at the very end of his career, he became a Boston Brave. That was not the no-no and net deal, in which that was originally with the Boston Red Sox when he went to the Yankees. So, wanted to correct myself there after I was corrected by our producer, Brian Hunterman, who, when he sits behind the big desk in the truck, knows all.
And of course, Brian is the lead man in what was the Emmy Award-winning high school football coverage on Fox Sports Ohio. It was announced last night. They'll be kicking off another great season Thursday, August 26th this year. A doubleheader, Loveland against Turpin. Turpin, one of the real powers in Division II the last couple of years. And that same night, it'll be Edgewood against Wyoming at 8 o'clock. That's Thursday, August the 26th, and the entire schedule will be announced very, very soon. One ball, 2 strikes on Jay Bruce. And he's gone swinging, and the inning is over. 5 strikeouts for Hanson. We go to the 5th, still a 1-0 Atlanta lead. this game on an 0-2 pitch. Left out over the middle of the plate. And Gonzalez, his first home run as an Atlanta Brave. He hit 17 of them in the first 85 games of the year with Toronto. On pace, Chris, for one of his best, if not his single best season in the major leagues, offensively speaking.
Well, Edinson Volquez, meanwhile, is beginning to get it all together. He has struck out 3 of the last 4 batters he's faced, gotten his fastball in spots where he's aimed it. And that's the big thing right there. Instead of a fastball here, he's going to go first pitch changeup.
Well, he's had his way with the rookie Hayward so far. Hayward has bounced to the mound and struck out.
It seems to me that the Braves really like to draft from their own backyard. I mean, they've done it over the years. You know, of course, you got guys who are still on their team right now. Brian McCann from right in the Atlanta area. Jason Hayward is another example. Most recently taken, only 20 years old. Here he is in the big leagues.
Well, many will remember, the Braves took a lot of heat as Cabrera gets rid of it quickly, and a nice play by Orlando Cabrera to get Hayward, who runs pretty well.
Two real good back-to-back defensive plays by the Reds in the infield. Brandon Phillips ended the inning on a bare hand play coming across the bag, and there's Orlando Cabrera, a little jump up in the air, pirouette towards first, and fires it over his head to Joey Votto. There aren't all that many shortstops that make that play that same way. I mean, really, the only 2 I can think of, and there may be some others in the American League, but is Derek Jeter. He likes to make that play like that. So many guys like to plant and throw. They've got a strong arm. I remember Ozzie Smith towards the end of his career would make that play, kind of field it and throw in one motion. Kind of a rainbow throw over to first base, but that was the only way he could get it there, that with a kind of a bad shoulder.
Breaking ball got away and backs up Omar Infante. 2 balls and no strikes. You're talking about the players in their own backyard. The Braves went about a decade and a half where they were just beaten up and beaten up badly, and admittedly, they said rightfully so, by so many players that were in and around the Atlanta area, certainly around the state of Georgia. I mean, that state produces just some unbelievable athletes. A lot of football players come out of there, not as much basketball, but certainly a lot of baseball talent. They're able to play because of primarily very good weather for most of the year. And they reorganized their entire scouting department about 10 years ago, and it's already paid huge dividends. There's a 4-pitch walk to Infante, and that's 4 of them in the game for Volquez. The first 3 walks came in the first 2 innings. Of course, Brandon Phillips, a guy who grew up right around the Atlanta area, still makes his home down there. But, really, you could say the same thing about the Reds in recent years.
Yeah.
Now, their scouting department, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, things have tightened up, and tightened up considerably, going back to when Dan O'Brien first took over as general manager and putting the whole thing back together after years of neglect, followed by Wayne Kriske, a scout's scout, if you will, and now Walt Jocketty, and of course all those guys under Chris Buckley, the director of scouting. But there have been a lot of guys that have come out of this area, whether it be northern Kentucky or just north of Cincinnati, if not Cincinnati directly, a.k.a. Kevin Youkilis. Guys that weren't necessarily number 1 picks or number 2 picks or number 5 picks, but guys that would slip down into 7th round, 8th round, 10th round, 15th round, or later. And the Reds had him virtually in their own backyard.
Yeah, and it looks bad for a ball club or an organization when that happens. When somebody finally turns into a superstar down the road, he was from your own hometown, and you never really made an effort to scout him very much, or at least rate him very high. But really what happens is that, you know, there's always one or two scouts, cross-checkers, national cross-checkers, or maybe area cross-checkers that have a lot of influence with the scouting director. So when you get in the war room on draft day, a lot of times they're going to go to his opinion. And for so many years, Johnny Alvarez was that guy with the Cincinnati Reds. And he scouted primarily down in Texas, the Southwest, down in Mexico as well. So that's why you see over the years an abundance of players taken from down in the Texas area. And a lot of them have turned out to be pretty good players, obviously. And I think the same way can be said for a lot of ball clubs. But maybe over the last decade or so, the Braves have beefed up their local scouting department. I think the Reds hopefully have as well. I know that was one of the things that Bob Castellini wanted to address early on, to get the good local talent here and turn them into Reds players.
Meanwhile, Edinson Volquez all of a sudden needs a compass to find a strike zone. He has thrown 8 straight pitches that came nowhere near the plate. And that'll prompt a visit by the pitching coach, Brian Price. Here we are in the 5th inning with 1 out, and Volquez has 90 pitches in the game.
You know, this is what you have. A lot of time we saw this with Johnny Cueto, on and off, you know, for the first couple of years of his career, and I think you're going to see the same thing with Edinson Volquez. I mean, his control, even before the Tommy John surgery, was not exactly precise. He got by with great stuff, and on those occasions when he had his release point perfect, he was nearly unhittable. But on those other days, it was a struggle for him to try to continually pound the strike zone. Because the problem is that when you're wild outside the zone, like he's been today, you can also be wild inside the zone. If there's a guy in the batter's box that can swing the bat, you might be in big trouble.
Well, 2 on, 1 out, and now the batter is Hirakinski, who's fly to left and popped to short. Jordan Smith, the rookie right-hander, begins to get loose in the Reds bullpen. And there's a strike. Volquez comes right back to get ahead at 0-2. Fouled back to the screen. No balls and 2 strikes. Very similar kind of game that we had here yesterday. Reds fall behind early. A sellout crowd is kept very, very quiet before the Reds finally got it going in that 7th inning. And there's a swing and a miss by Hensky, and that's 6 strikeouts for Edinson Volquez.
Yeah, that's the curveball that we were talking about at the very onset of the ball game. Volquez now no longer throws a changeup, or no longer throws a slider. He thought the slider might aggravate that elbow that he had repaired, Tommy John surgery, so he really taught himself a curveball. Sitting around one day watching a video of him pitching against the Cardinals, and he saw him matched up against Chris Carpenter. He watched Carpenter throw curveball after curveball, befuddling the Reds, and decided to teach that pitch to himself, and that's what he did on his rehab.
Fouled away, strike 1 by Alex Gonzalez, whose home run leading off the 2nd inning has been the only run of this game for either team.
Now you got a changeup on an 0-2 count. Doesn't mean you just throw him fastballs right here, because we've seen Gonzalez guess fastball and hit those a long way if you get him up.
In the Cabrera hit hard into right center field, but there is Heisey, and again the Braves strand 2 more. That's 8 left on base in 4 innings. So 1-0 game, Atlanta in front, and now it's time for the Fifth Third Bank hardest workers in the game.
Outside of team practice, how do you train to keep yourself performing at a major league level?
I tell you, the game's really changed this year from what it was. I mean, off-season really isn't an off-season. Off-season now is, instantly getting ready for the upcoming season. 162 games, games change at speed and defense. So got to stay slim and keep running, hit, run, throw every day. Always try. Take some time off. But I work out in Arizona at Scottsdale at API, and there's a bunch of athletes over there from the collegiate football guys getting ready for the combine to NFL rehab guys, NBA, and a whole lot of baseball guys. So we got a nice core group of guys over there.
Fifth Third Bank, the things we do for dreams.
Now starting at just $123. Get the Premier Pack. See the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks on opening night. Pittsburgh Penguins part of the deal, as is Detroit. Buy your ticket now at BlueJackets.com. 1 run, 3 hits, 8 men left on base for Atlanta. No runs, 2 hits, and 3 stranded by the Reds. Ladder third in the batting order. Heisey, Hernandez, and Volquez. Heisey looked at a breaking ball, called third, strike. His only at bat today. Hansen has struck out 5, walked 1, and just the 1 hit in the first inning by Cabrera. And then Cabrera's second hit came with 2 outs in the third. There's that Hansen breaking ball that struck out Heisey his first time up. Got a piece of it this time. Heisey making just his 17th start of the year. 9 of them now in center, 5 in right, 3 in left. Most recently, his last start came Wednesday night in Milwaukee. He went 1 for 5, scored a run, and struck out a couple of times. There's a slow 2-hopper to Infante, who throws out Heisey. Get a look at the National League Central Division standings presented by Honda. Pirates have taken an early 1-0 lead over the Cardinals. That's against Adam Wainwright. Blacked up against Zach Duke today. See, the team that never loses seemingly. San Francisco. They have now won 19 out of 23 games.
When they do it, they do it when they're right on the West Coast, and you don't read about it until maybe a day or 2 later.
You're right.
You're right. They have come back after a bad road trip. They went on a streak where they lost, 6 or 7 games in a row, and then really put it together. And did not really do a lot at the trading deadline. They were looking for a bat, it seemed like, Tom, for their lineup or off their bench at least, for the last month and a half. And Brian Sabian had a press conference and said, you know what? We didn't see anybody out there that we liked that was going to help his ball club that wouldn't cost us an arm and a leg. It'll be an interesting divisional race over there in the West.
Well, you're right. All of a sudden, San Diego has lost back-to-back games. There's a base hit in the left field by Ramon Hernandez, and so the day is over for Edinson Volquez. He'll be taken down for a pinch hitter. Those 5 innings, throws nearly 100 pitches in the 5 innings. Allows 3 hits. He walks 5, striking out 6, and giving up just the 1 run.
Well, the reason you carry 12 pitchers on your team, I mean, you got 7 relievers down there nowadays, and the reason you do that is because you really only expect your starter to go 5, 6, maybe 7 innings. So I'll take 5 innings of 1-run baseball out of Edinson Volquez every 5th day from here to the end of the season. He'd like to go a little deeper, no doubt. He'd like to have that changeup back that Gonzalez jolted into the seats and left, too.
Well, now Johnny Gomes to bat for Edinson Volquez, and he looks at a fastball, strike 1. Lined into right, caught by Hayward, and they're 2 away in the inning. My dad sent me a text message telling me that the 3 home runs that Babe Ruth hit in that one game is the oldest Brave to do it in franchise history.
Yeah.
Was the final game of his career, his final 3 home runs in the major leagues. So that'd be 712, 713, and 714.
Wow.
My dad broadcast that game, in fact.
He'll appreciate you bringing that up.
I borrowed that from the guys in the truck.
Broadcast that game on what, a tin can and some string?
Hey, he was there when it all got started. Now Brandon Phillips. Down the right field line, going hard. Hayward, he's not going to get there. And by leaving his feet, he enables Hernandez to score all the way from first. Here's a throw into third, and Phillips is in there with a triple to tie the game. Great effort by Hayward, but when he came up short, that ball was going to roll far enough away for the Reds to bring in a tying run.
You know, you say it's a great effort by Hayward, and I guess in one way it is, but if he just plays his ball and circles it, the Reds don't score a run right here. Ramon Hernandez would not score from first on a ball that would probably only have been a double for Brandon Phillips, but because he dove for it and did not come up with it, the ball gets by him. By the time he picks it up, Brandon goes into third. Ramon Hernandez comes around. We've got a tie ball game.
So first run the Reds have scored on a Sunday. The last 4 of them they have played. So now Phillips will go ahead run at third, and here's Orlando Cabrera's 2 for 2 against Hansen today. Well, he'd like to have that one back. You saw him clench his fist and grind his teeth as if to say, man, that was a hittable breaking ball.
I think he was more of a little bit of a surprise right there. That could be a setup. You know, Cabrera's that smart of a player. You fooled me so badly. Let's see you try to do it again.
On the ground and booted by the shortstop, and the Reds have a lead. As routine as it gets for one of the best defenders at shortstop over the last decade. And a rare mistake gives Cincinnati its first lead of the game.
Now, the guy's got great fielding mechanics, but he came up with that ball and then dropped it. As he went down with it, he gets very low to the ground, Cabrera does, or Gonzalez does. And when he went to scoop it, it wasn't there.
Now maybe you have Atlanta rattled a bit here. And here's Joey Votto, who Hansen has really dominated the first 2 times up in this game.
And he's done it all with off-speed pitches. I don't think he's shown Joey Votto yet a fastball, at least not in the strike zone. Reds fans, for great food with family and friends this summer, think JTM. Food, family, fun, JTM.
Fastball that time right by Votto. He hasn't seen very many of them today. There's a 2-out triple by Phillips. Makes it 206 runs batted in for the Reds this year with 2 outs in an inning. That's the most 2-out RBIs among all teams in the National League. Boy, if Hansen pitched to every batter like he has pitched to Votto today, he'd win 35 games a year.
And you wonder if it's just a matter of being a little more mentally driven, a little more focused. Because he is focused right now. So is Votto. You know, as a follow-up to that Babe Ruth answer to our AT&T trivia question, I got an email from our good friend Brian Abrams down in Phoenix, Arizona, who says that he played with the Braves, the Boston Braves, at Crosley Field, Babe Ruth did, and fell down on the warning track. You know where they had the hill up there?
Sure.
And was so disgusted and frustrated that he retired shortly after.
Wow, very interesting.
Also telling me that it's a rainy day in Phoenix. Go figure.
I'll tell you one thing.
Feels like Phoenix out there in the stands right now, probably.
Having lived out there for a dozen years, they are beyond elated in Phoenix if it is raining today. A fly ball in the short left field. Cabrera's there, and the inning is over, but the Reds score twice. They get a couple of hits and take advantage of an Alex Gonzalez error to take a 2-1 lead.
Trade deadline. It passed, and the Reds did not make a move. It's the focus of our Meyer text poll question of today. Since the Reds did not make a move yesterday, you okay with it, or are you disappointed? Text 1 for, yeah, you're okay with it. This team is good enough. Or 2, you're disappointed, think they needed some type of help. Text your choices to 37664. 37664. Standard text message rates apply while the results coming up. Now, I know a lot of you out there are probably disappointed, ready to hit number 2, but I would happen to agree with Walt Jocketty, who said some of the best trades made are the ones that aren't made. Looking at the trade market, it would have been just making a trade just to make a trade, in my opinion. Let's go back upstairs.
Well, Jimbo, thank you very much. And Walt also making it very, very clear that the team made what they felt was the best offer that any team could have made to try and get Cliff Lee. Johnny Gomes remains in the game. He'll play left field, moving Lance Nix into center field. Chris Heisey, who gets a rare start, is out of the game. Nice play by Cabrera. One away. I mean, clearly Cliff Lee, Chris, is the one guy that the Reds felt like at the time could make the most impact on the club. Well, and they try to get him.
Well, anytime you're going to get a caliber pitcher like Cliff Lee, who's been one of the best 3 pitchers in baseball the last couple of seasons, he can impact anybody. And you do that without upsetting the regular 8 players that you have that Dusty Baker's been moving in and out of this lineup.
Well, nearly 2/3 of you are okay with not making any big splash at the trade deadline. It's not to say the Reds still can't make a trade if they see something they like, but it has the potential to be blocked by another club. There were a lot more deals after the trade deadline last year than we've seen in recent years in baseball. The gamble you take by trying to block a trade is if you claim a guy, if the other team leaves him out there, doesn't pull him back, you're stuck with a player that you may not want or a player that maybe you can't afford.
And his salary, even if it extends to the years beyond. And that's why you still may see some guys who have big-time contracts over multiple years, get right through that trading waiver wire.
Jordan Smith takes care of the first 2 batters here in the 6th inning.
Well, he's adjusted to life in the major leagues pretty well. Jordan Smith has. Comes right up from Double-A. A little more than a month ago. You see in 17 ball games now an earned run average of 2.6. Throws a lot of strikes. Has walked only 4 and struck out 12. I just cannot remember a time when the Reds have been so well armed at their big league level. Plus, we already showed you that 5-headed relief corps that they have down in the minor leagues ready to come up from Double-A or from Triple-A. 2 of them very experienced former major league pitchers, Isringhausen and Russ Springer.
And then Jared Burton, who might be pitching better than any of them, who did not allow a single run during the entire month of July. Not one. And of course, the one with the most potential is the 4th member of Aroldis Chapman. Smith, a 1-2-3-6, still a 2-1 Reds lead. Light sixth inning, and now it's time for the Coors Light freeze cam. Brandon Phillips, we've seen him do it so many times. Bare-handed pickup, all in one motion to get a speedy running. That was the Coors Light freeze cam, brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light. Tommy Hansen still out there on the mound. And shut out the Reds on 2 hits through the front 4. He allowed a 1-out single to Hernandez in the 5th. The triple to tie the game off the bat of Brandon Phillips. And then with a runner at third with a score tied at 1, Cabrera hit a routine ground ball that was booted by Gonzalez, allowing Brandon to score the go-ahead run, and that's where we are now.
Well, it's been just about a year since Walt Jocketty pulled the trigger on a trade that sent Edwin Encarnacion to the Toronto Blue Jays along with Zach Stewart. And in return, the Reds got Rolen. So a year later, let's take a look at it. Rolen's played in more ball games. He's had a lot more at-bats. Encarnacion has been injured, also sent down the minor leagues. But as far as production at the major league level, no question about it. The Reds have gotten it offensively from Rolen and defensively from Rolen as well. Only 5 errors in the time that Encarnacion has made 16.
And, of course, far more importantly, the wins and losses for the team since the trade. With Rolen in the lineup, the Reds are 73-45.
Now, those that did not like that trade, Tom, a lot of them said, hey, well, what about Zach Stewart? He's one of the highest rated prospects in the Reds organization, and he's still a very highly rated prospect this time. Now, right now, pitching in Double-A, New Hampshire, 8-2, pretty good earned run average. He's on track to be in the big leagues. I think he's 23 or 24 years old now. But still, you know, you've replaced Zach Stewart with Mike Leake, Travis Wood, Logan Ondrusek, Jordan Smith, fill in the blank.
Another base hit for Rolen, and this one will skip past Hayward and go to the wall. So for Rolen, and now his last 4 starts, that is his 4th double and his 10th hit. And a good way to get it started here in the 6th inning.
I'll tell you what, he's feeling good when he hits a ball like that. He works on it in batting practice every day, and the Reds did take BP here on a Sunday, a rare thing for them. And maybe that's why they've had a little bit of offense on this Sunday, where they have not for so long here at Great American, going back to May. 22 of them for Scotty.
So now Lance Nix with Jay Bruce on deck. Nix in a game has struck out looking. He has struck out swinging. And there's a fly ball in the left center field. Rolen will get back to the bag. Thought about tagging up, but quickly getting it back in is Cabrera. So not a productive out in any way, shape, or form by Nix. 1 out in the inning.
Yeah, you'd hope that Lance Nix would be a little more patient in that at bat. I mean, if eventually you only get a pitch and you can hit the left field, that's fine. But certainly not on the first offering that you get. You know, your job there is to get that runner over to third. That means you got to pull the ball somehow. Maybe Jay Bruce can get him in.
Bill Bray continues to crank it up in the Reds bullpen. He was so sharp here on Friday night. Bruce, of course, able to bounce back from striking out with Rolen in third in the 8th inning in a game on Friday night that would have knocked in a go-ahead run when he struck out against Johnny Venters. But yesterday came up with the go-ahead run and banged a base hit into right field to drive it in. Actually, that was a tying run, I beg your pardon, that Bruce knocked in. Hannigan gave the team the lead in a 2-2 affair with that double into left center field. Pitcher spot due up next, and Miguel Cairo stands in the on-deck circle. 2 outs in the inning on the broken bat soft liner. Follow the Reds on your iPhone, iPod Touch, BlackBerry, and Android phone with MLB.com's At Bat 2010. You can log on to Reds.com right now to purchase. Excellent job by Jordan Smith yet again. 1 inning. Zeros across the board in the runs and hits and walks category. He struck out 2. Got to wonder about that Reds bullpen a little bit going into the game today. And, you know, obviously the manager and the pitching coach, as you get closer to a game and then once you get in a game, they'll talk to some of their relievers as to how they're feeling. There's a ground ball short, and a throw is in time to end the inning. A leadoff double, and Rolen never moves. We go to the 7th. The Reds still lead by a run. By AT&T, find out what's possible with the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T Rethink Possible. By your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Honda dealers. Visit mycincinnatihondadealer.com. And by Hollywood Casino. More action, more excitement. Get to Hollywood Casino, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. That little guy wearing out that relish. 2-1 ball game. 3rd straight sellout crowd here at Great American Ballpark in this series. Top of the order coming up for Atlanta. And now on to pitch is left-hander Bill Bray.
He's the 3rd pitcher of the day for Dusty Baker. It was Edinson Volquez won 5 innings of 3-hit, 1-run baseball. Then Jordan Smith, a perfect inning in the last frame, punched out a couple. And now the hard-throwing left-hander Billy Bray.
Conrad, Hayward, and Infante coming up. Conrad has walked twice and was robbed of a hit on that barehanded bouncer made by Brandon Phillips back ending the 4th inning.
Well, the last 9 games for the Reds bullpen has been awfully good. Earned run average of 1.1. Almost a strikeout per inning. Have kept the walks way down. And well, what a vote of confidence that you can give your whole team when Dusty Baker can make a call to the bullpen and know when he brings in a guy out there, you're going to be able to do the job. Have a little problem over there, partner?
A little bit. Everything's all right. 2-2 to count on Conrad. And here's strike 3 called on the outside corner. A 91-mile-per-hour fastball. I'm not sure Conrad agreed.
Now, we've seen Bill Bray at his best when he faces left-handers and drops that slider on him, and he did it the other night against Jason Hayward. This time he's got a fastball, a little cutter of a fastball, it looks like, that starts outside and comes back and touches the outside corner. See if Bray will give anything but breaking balls to Hayward. Had him looking very bad on slider after slider on Friday.
Hayward 0 for 3 in a game today has bounced to the mound, struck out swinging, and grounded out to Cabrera. Hit the ball very hard at Cabrera in the 5th inning. We're starting to talk about the Reds bullpen and how everybody's doing down there. Rhodes and Massett each have pitched in the first, and Cordero have pitched in the first 2 games of this series. And of course, Cordero had a lengthy outing in the 10-inning loss when he was hung with a loss here on Friday night, throwing nearly 40 pitches in that outing. We wondered if he would come back yesterday. He did. He allowed a couple of hits, but ended the game on a strikeout of this young man, Jason Hayward. Three and one on Hayward. That looked pretty good right there. Instead, it's called low, ball 4. And this is what they're trying to get Bray, who has come back all the way from the Tommy John surgery, is to find more consistency. I mean, the other night, you always hear the great pitchers use the word execute. You've got to execute your pitches. And Bray the other night executed every pitch, and I mean every pitch he made, to the 2 left-handed batters he faced on Friday night. But here he comes back today, and Hayward is no easy out by any means. But Bray dominated Hayward when he faced him in his 6th inning on Friday night, struck him out. Then 2 batters later retired Brian McCann very easily.
Well, I think, Tom, what you're looking at is a guy with Bill Bray who is not quite yet pitched enough after his surgery to have a real repeatable delivery. And it was his problem before the surgery. And I think until he smooths it out, it's going to continue to be. It's better now than it was. There's no question. But you're always questing for a pitching delivery that you can repeat time after time after time. So really, when you're on the mound, you know you can throw strikes wherever you want to. And you're able to, at that point, just think about the strategy of pitching and not whether I can throw a strike. If you notice on that particular slow-mo right there how he really locks out his front leg, that's what throws him off a little bit. And sometimes it's a smoother transition than others, but it's much better than it was. Watch his front leg right here. When he lands and that leg gets completely straight, that jerks his body up a little bit, and that's what causes him to have a slightly different release point. A little smoother front side would really do him a lot of good. Easily said, not easily done.
2-1 pitch lifted in the air to Jay Bruce. 2 outs in the inning. The question that I would have, and I'm sure a lot of people have at home watching, Chris, is it's not like Bill Bray can go out and throw every single day to work on mechanics in a side session like maybe a starter does in between starts, because he might have to pitch that night. So how do you get that straightened out?
Well, that's a problem, because obviously you want to be able to work with your pitching coach, Brian Price. And you can do that because Price is in the bullpen, in the dugout the entire game, and you're in the bullpen. So what you hope to do is you warm up a little bit before the game, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not enough to wear yourself out, but enough to keep yourself in tune and save something for the ball game. And quite frankly, one of the shortcomings the Reds have on their coaching staff is, they don't have a former pitcher in the bullpen. in Porky Lopez. He's a former catcher, and a guy down there has been a bullpen catcher for a long time, and I know that he's trying to execute what Brian Price is teaching him, but it's not quite the same as having, say, a former closer or a former all-star reliever out there as your bullpen coach.
Two and another count on McCann. Reds with a 2-1 lead here in the 7th. 1 on, 2 out. Swing and a miss on a breaking ball.
Got Brian McCann looking fastball. Bill Bray dropping a slider on him. That's a good one when he keeps it down there. It's got nice depth. What scouts mean by that normally is that it sinks.
Two and one account on Brian McCann. McCann's so dangerous in these situations. Through his first 4.5, 5 years in the big leagues. Just a little bit low, running the count full. So now Hayward, who runs well, will get started early on the pitch. Bray ready, a check of the runner, and here it comes. And he walked it. Wow. The two left-handed batters in the inning, and Bray walks them both. Precisely what the Reds were talking about just before the game today. Trying to get Bray more consistent. Because you just don't know one outing to the next. And really that was true even when he was healthy a couple of years ago.
It all comes down to your delivery. It's like having a complicated golf swing. I mean, the more complicated it is, the more difficult it is to repeat. And I think that's where Bill Bray is right now. Until he gets a lot of innings under his belt. You got to remember that Bill Bray was never a starting pitcher, not even in college. So he's never been one of these pitchers where he's been able to pitch 150 to 200 innings a year and really work out those mechanical problems. You come in for a short stint, and it's all about scoreboard. And so your mechanics and your consistency sometimes takes a second seat to getting the job done. And that's the way it's been probably for the last 6 years for Bill Bray. And he needs to get the job done right here, and it's not going to be an easy one against the switch-hitting Chipper Jones.
So Jones coming off the Atlanta bench. And he is batting for Eric Hensky. Hayward at second base, a tying run. McCann the go-ahead run, and Chipper first pitch swinging. You see him do a lot of that as the years have rolled by.
He's looking for fastballs on the first count.
Now those are the numbers this year. A big disparity, right-handed versus left-handed. But we talked about it Friday night. He has been outstanding from both sides during his great career. Fouled out of play, and Bray ahead 0-2. There you see the numbers.
Is it me, or does it look like Chipper's slowing down a little bit?
He's looked better in this series, that's for sure, than his season numbers would indicate. There's a breaking ball in. He swung the bat Friday night. Had a couple of hits, drew a walk, scored a run, knocked in a run, drew a walk, as we mentioned yesterday. But the season numbers would certainly tell you he's going to have a hard time getting to some of the numbers that you're used to seeing out of Chipper Jones year in and year out. Been around a long time, man. I mean, start to wear down. We've seen more and more players in recent years with better conditioning. They eat better. They take care of themselves better than maybe the generation before. Not entirely, not every guy, but you've seen more players playing into their late 30s. But not for everybody. The overwhelming majority, you don't get better as you get older.
Well, you used to until they started drug testing.
Well, some guys certainly hung around for a lot longer. There's no debate about that. Big pitch right now coming up for Chipper Jones. And that is a foul ball off his foot.
Well, bounce out a long way, so when it does that off your foot, your ankle, or your toe, and at that time, that was a toe jam.
Two balls, two strikes, 2 on, 2 out. We're in the Atlanta 7th inning. And Bray turns it loose. And this is playable. For who? Bruce coming hard. And he'll get there to win the inning. A couple of walks, 2 men stranded. The Braves have left 10 men on base. And that's 10 left on in 5 innings of the game. Reds a 2-1 lead, and we'll keep it right here as Ben Walls will sing God Bless America.
Major League Baseball, the Braves and the Reds salute the men and women of our armed forces. And at this time, please help us honor these brave men and women and all of our veterans of service, and welcome Ben Walls as he leads us in the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
August 15th. That's 2 weeks from today. The first 10,000 fans, 14 and younger, at the Reds-Marlins game get a kid's catcher's backpack. It looks just like a catcher's chest protector. Get tickets now by calling 513-381-REDS or log on to Reds.com. That looks pretty cool. Got to get one of those. School's starting up, Chris, in about a little less than a month for a lot of the youngsters around the area. Troy Glaw stays in the game to play first base. Tommy Hanson still on the mound. And the Reds with a 2-1 lead. Hernandez, Johnny Gomes, and Brandon Phillips coming up. In the air, on the run is Hayward. 1 pitch and 1 out for Hanson to begin the 7th.
I got a visit before the ballgame, Tom, from Rick Walls, the major domo of the Reds Hall of Fame, and he brought in this really nice bobblehead. Kind of a figurine bobblehead,
yep.
But it's a it's a fifth of a series of 6 bobbleheads that the Reds Hall of Fame are giving out this summer. This will go to the first 4,500 people who come to the Reds Hall of Fame on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, anytime throughout the month of August. Got Marge and Shotzi. Got a little replica of the 1990 World Series. Of course, this is a continuing effort to honor the World Series gang that went wire to wire that year. And good-looking bobblehead doll.
It really is. Very, very nice.
And the best part is you don't even have to clean up after Shotzi.
Sure?
Well, I hope so. Because he's about to go back in the box.
0-2 the count on Johnny Gomes. Of course, there were a lot of people that came from a lot of different parts of the country and, said a lot of things and wrote a lot of things about Marge Schock. And not all of them flattering. Some not bad. But for those of us who grew up in Cincinnati, she did so much good for so many people in this community. I mean, she may not have spoken all the right words, said all the right things, done all the right things, maybe as they pertain to different facets of the franchise. They won a world championship, that's all I know. And had some pretty good teams. They had high payrolls generally every year. And generally every year they had the lowest priced ticket and hot dog and beer. So if you were a fan of the Reds during a majority of her ownership, not all of it, as far as just the major league product was concerned, it wasn't a bad run.
You're right. You're right about that.
But of course, it culminated with that World Series 4-game championship sweep over the Oakland Athletics in the 1990 year. We've been remembering that 1990 team at both the Hall of Fame and Museum, and part of our big Hall of Fame induction ceremony a couple of weeks ago. A lot of the members from a 1990 team have been in and out of town frequently throughout the summer. Grounded to third, and Phillips retired, and the Reds are gone quietly in order in the 7th. All right, we go to the 8th. Still a 2-1 Cincinnati lead. ones who get it done, and that would be Orlando Cabrera. A couple of hits today. Made a couple of outstanding plays defensively. Of course, he's been doing this pretty regularly the entire year. So Nick Massett is available, and he is now in the game. Talked about Massett pitching in each of the last 2 games. Had logged a lot of work, but he's been in there. 2/3 of an inning, a strikeout, no hits, no walks, no runs Friday. And then the same yesterday, 2/3 of an inning.
Well, he threw 12 pitches yesterday, Massett did, and he threw 6 pitches the day before. So, you know, a lot of times you find out when you're getting up and getting loose whether you're going to be able to go in or not. In a 1-run ball game, you hope that Massett can do the job here in the 8th, and if Cordero's called on in the 9th, he's able to do the job. Although considering the number of pitches Cordero has thrown the last couple of days, you wonder if maybe Dusty Baker will go in a different direction in the 9th inning if they hold a 1-run lead.
Massett has fallen behind Alex Gonzalez 2-0. Gonzalez homered for the only Atlanta run back in the 2nd inning on an 0-2 pitch. He's been hit by a pitch and fly to center since. 40,871 in attendance here today. And a 3-day weekend total of 122,855. And the 3-game series is the highest total in the history of Great American Ballpark. How about that? I would suspect that we're going to maybe knock on the door. The same old's true, even though it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when the Cardinals come in town a week from tomorrow. Bouncer down to 3rd. Roland throws out Gonzalez. Now Rick Ankiel, his first game as an Atlanta Brave after coming over in the deal from Kansas City yesterday. His walk, struck out, and grounded to short. Ankiel's journey, well documented, was the #1 ranked pitching prospect in all of minor league baseball coming up in the Cardinals organization. Wound up bursting onto the scene and dominating hitters. And then, of course, it was the playoffs against the New York Mets when all of a sudden Ankiel could not find the strike zone. And was all over the place, and it became a mental issue with Ankiel. He's had to wrestle with some bumps along the road as a young man growing up. His father spent a number of years in jail. So there certainly were a lot of issues in his life just to get to the big leagues. Wound up going all the way back down to the minor leagues and became an everyday position player, an outfielder, and then made it back to the major leagues in that role, which is just an extraordinary accomplishment. There's a bouncer down to first for the 2nd out of the inning. I think a lot of us forget how hard that was to do for Ankiel. I can't think of anybody else that's done it since I've been around.
Well, you know, he had to go all the way back to the very bottom rung of the ladder when it comes to minor league baseball. It's not like they took him from being a pitcher and put him in AAA as a hitter. You got to earn your way back up here. Really is quite an accomplishment.
Well, it's beyond amazing. I mean, you know, it's just, you never see it. I mean, it's not like, well, there's 8 or 10 guys that have done it, or there's 3 or 4 guys that have done it. He is the only guy that has done it and made it. On the ground, and what an impressive inning out of Massey. Braves gone in order. Reds come to bat in the bottom of the 8th, still leading by a run.
Atmosphere aboard the Cincinnati Bell Riverboat deck at Great American Ballpark. Enjoy the panoramic views of the Ohio River and the ballpark from this 2-story outdoor party area located high above the center field wall. Make your plans today by calling Reds Group Sales Department 513-765-7600. Great place to watch a game, no doubt about it.
Bottom of the 8th inning, Tommy Hanson still on the mound for the Braves. He's only allowed 5 base hits and 2 runs. It was an error that broke the 1-1 tie committed by Alex Gonzalez with 2 outs and a runner at third in the 5th inning.
We really didn't get much of a look at Tommy Hanson in May because he only lasted 5 outs. Oh boy, you talk about impressive this afternoon. He has spotted up his fastball, has used a couple of different types of breaking balls, more sliders and curves, but both of them very good.
Ball foul by Cabrera.
And I still think that he's the victim of really a misplay. Not a very smart play by the right fielder, Jason Hayward, trying to dive at a ball that would have ended the inning had he been able to come up with it. But even if he had played it more conservatively, the Reds may not have scored in that inning. Of course, they scored a second run on an error by Alex Gonzalez. That's a rarity as well.
0-2 on Cabrera. It's a 2-hit game for Orlando, and that one fouled off. Joey Votto to follow, and then Scott Rowland. I'd like to send out big happy birthday wishes. Guy who works right here at the ballpark each and every day. Tom Yeager turning 58 years young today. Thomas, happy birthday. Part of the staff working under Declan Mullen, running all the operations of this ballpark day in and day out. And they do a top-notch job. Oh, and 2 on Cabrera. Fastball away. Although it should be noted, Declan has become less of a director of ballpark operations than he has a meteorologist in recent
He's really
months.
taken to that, hasn't he?
Really has.
He even has a nickname, Doppler Declan, to go along with that new passion of his.
I call him tired Doppler Devlin.
How's he take to that?
Not well.
I wouldn't think so. I'll tell you, his forecasts are pretty good, though.
Really?
Yeah. He called for sunny weather and hot this afternoon, and he is right on.
Fly ball into left center field, easy for Cabrera, and that's out number 1 in the Reds' 8th inning. Cardinals have taken a 2-1 lead over the Pirates that game in the bottom of the 5th. And that's an example of what you and I were talking about kiddingly earlier, as Bobby Cox is going to come get Hansen. You play the teams you're supposed to beat. Generally, the teams that win divisions or get in the playoffs as a wild card, they beat those teams.
Yeah, and they beat those teams, and they also win at home. And they may struggle on the road, but for the most part, they take care of business that they should. Nice day for Tommy Hansen.
Very good day, but on the short end of a 2-1 game. First pitch Joey Votto saw from Johnny Venters on Friday night. He hammered one of the seats in left center field.
And that was the first home run that he had given up all year long to a righty or a lefty. This guy's numbers have been outstanding, Venters has.
A couple of television crews, small town TV crews from Hazard, Kentucky, have been in town to do stories on this young man who grew up in Pikeville, Kentucky.
That's one of the stops on the Reds Caravan.
Sure is. That's what we were talking about. It really was cute. You know, Votto has gone swinging. For those of us who have been so blessed to be broadcasting Major League Baseball for a long, long time, and then all of a sudden you see a crew come in from a little town in Kentucky, camera guy and a reporter. The reporter grew up in Atlanta and now is trying to make his way into the TV business. And I was down in Bobby Cox's office yesterday when they came in, waited patiently for an interview with Bobby Cox. And here this reporter who could have been 23 years old does the interview with Cox, clearly in awe of just being in the same room with a guy he grew up watching as the manager of his favorite team. And then at the end, he whips out his own camera and hands it to his buddy and says, "Mr. Cox, do you mind if I have a picture with you?" And, of course, Bobby is always just the best. Absolutely. And they got up next to each other, and naturally, the guy taking a picture messed it up. And then they look at it, and now it's still blurry. And then they take it again, and no, it didn't flash. But it was just so cute to see this guy stand there and was so excited. And Bobby Cox couldn't have been more pleasant. There's a ground ball to short, inning over.
And you can see it on Facebook.
Probably right. If you're a Facebook guy. We go to the ninth, 2-1 game. Cabrera leaping in the air, throwing just in time to get Jason Hayward back in the fifth inning. All right, it's a 2-1 game. And Francisco Cordero, who got the loss here on Friday night, his fourth loss of the year. Cordero in an inning and a third threw nearly 40 pitches. He walked 2 batters, allowed a hit and 2 runs. Came back yesterday, allowed 2 hits, struck out 2, didn't walk anybody, did not allow a run.
He's thrown 60 pitches, Cordero has, in his last 2 days. So he probably didn't have an easy time getting loose today, and you can say all you want about Cordero. Makes it interesting, biting your fingernails off, watching him pitch, walking batters, but he'll take the baseball.
Matt Diaz, a pinch hitter for Ventures, looks at a strike. Let's have Roland, Cabrera, Phillips, and Votto in the infield. Gomes, Nix, and Bruce in the outfield. And it's still Ramon Hernandez behind the plate. 2 runs, 5 hits for Cincinnati. 1 run, 3 hits, and 10 men left on base for Atlanta. Edinson Volquez allowed 8 base runners in 5 innings. Only 3 hits but 5 walks. But Atlanta, all year long, they've had a hard time getting big hits to knock in runs and leaving a lot of guys on base. 2 and 2 to Diaz. You can only wonder what would their record look like if they didn't leave as many guys on and just got a few more of them in. Maybe 20 over. But of course, Cordero's job is to try and nail down this 1-run lead. Smith and Massett, perfect in the 2 innings out of the bullpen following Edinson Volquez. Throwing very hard. Last 2 fastballs, 95. That last one, 96.
Hey, you wonder when he's going to hit the wall, Tom, because there's just so many pitches that you can throw game after game after game before you finally reach back and there's not a lot there. So far, so good, though. Except the fact that Matt Diaz is becoming a pest. 8 pitches in this at bat already. Cordero probably thinking, will you just please put one of these in play?
Probably safe to assume that we would not see Cordero tomorrow night for the opening game in Pittsburgh. 3-2 on the way. And another foul ball. It's 10 pitches in this at bat. Two delivery. Came back through him a breaking ball, and Diaz fouls that one off.
Yeah, you're seeing where Cordero's trying to work Diaz, which is down and away. Diaz got some home run pop. Short arms, not an easy guy to get inside on. So if they're going to make him hurt him or hurt the Reds, it's going to be going the other way with it.
Straight away center field. Room out there for Nix. One away. Boy, give Cordero a lot of credit there. Strike after strike after strike.
After every Reds game, Fox Sports Ohio breaks down the game and talks to the stars of the game and the manager, Dusty Baker, on Reds Live, brought to you by Kings Honda in the Kings Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com.
Ball one to Brooks Conrad, who has walked twice, bounced to second, and struck out. Well, we know about the heroics for Conrad against Francisco Cordero back on May the 20th in that 7-run 9th inning. He hit the game-winning grand slam. This Atlanta team has really roughed up Cordero. Yesterday, he was finally able to close out a game. Soft liner to Cabrera, and Cordero's retired the first two in the ninth with one more to go. So now to nearly 41,000 in attendance. Rise is one, anticipating the final out of the game and a series win for the Reds against the Braves. Jason Hayward digging in. Hayward 0 for 3, walked in the 7th inning. He had the big night in the series opener with 3 doubles. The 2-run double to break a 4-4 tie in the 10th inning. He's been very quiet ever since. 2-0. Bouncing ball into center field, and that'll be a 2-out single. Hayward digging hard. He's coming to second. Here comes a throw, and nowhere near the bag. Hayward had made up his mind the second that ball dribbled into center field that he was going for two.
Well, if there was going to be any lax play at all by the Reds outfield, he was about to take advantage of it. And the fact that the play was going to happen in front of him, he could always slam on the brakes and go back to first base. But he's running hard right there. It's in a little bit of a gap, and you see the, I can't say it was a lackadaisical play because Jay Bruce came a long way from right field to get that. It's just a good hustling play by Jason Hayward.
So now the runner is at second base, the tying run, and here's Infante. Fastball up and in.
Well, you rarely see Cordero do that. That is come up and in. And it's a good thing to see. You buy a little more of that outside corner when you show him something under the elbows.
Cordero behind 1-0 on Infante. It's an air strike. I'm not sure outside of Prado there's anybody, as a Reds fan, I'd want to see less at the plate right now than Infante. This guy is just a hard out. I mean, him and Prado, they battle, they foul balls away. But he got sawed off right there, and that's the old ball game. One hit, one left, and the Reds get outstanding pitching. Volquez for 5, Smith, Bassett for 1 each, and Cordero to save in a 2-1 win. And after losing the opener, Chris, on Friday night, they win the series.
Well, they win the games they ought to win. You win in front of the big-time crowd here today. They were able to do that yesterday, so they put a little bit of a 2-game streak together before they head to Pittsburgh, where they hope to take care of business against the Pirates. But a nice weekend of baseball here in Cincinnati. A short homestand, on the road again, and keep that momentum going.
We'll be back in a moment.